Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to Cimmerian September 2025. This is Michael K. Vaughan, of course. This is Michael K. Vaughan's event celebrating Robert E. Howard and Conan the Barbarian. And this year, all of Robert E. Howard's creations, not just Conan, but anything of the vast wealth of other stuff that he wrote. He wrote historical fiction, contemporary stuff, exotic tales of the East, boxing stories, and as well as, Solomon Kane and Cull and Bran McMorn and Conan the Barbarian. Wrote a lot of different stuff, different things. And I have been largely ignoring that dictate this time around by reading old 40-year-old copies of Marvel Comics black and white Savage Sword of Conan magazine. Marvel Comics at the time had the franchise for Conan and all things Robert E. Howard, so they did a monthly color comic called Conan the Barbarian. But Conan did well enough so that they thought that they would have a fan base for a black and white, larger size magazine that wouldn't be with the other comics. It would be off with the magazines in a different part of the dry goods store, and therefore could maybe escape the comics code and get away with more graphic sex and more graphic violence. And Savage Sword of Conan was launched, and it was a success, and it was also great. I loved it. And it went on for a long, long time. It went on for hundreds of issues, and I stopped loving it. I stopped paying attention to it more or less at issue number 100. And so I've got a stack of Savage Sword of Conan from later than that I've been examining for Cimmerian September. Eventually, Marvel Comics lost the franchise of Robert E. Howard. They were licensed product, and eventually Marvel lost that franchise. They'd done really well by it, but they lost it, and it went to a series of other comic book companies, and then it came back to Marvel. And Marvel suddenly had the ability to publish Conan again, and they did. And I firmly believe, I don't have any proof of this, I haven't talked to anyone, I don't know anyone who I could talk to, I firmly believe that Marvel wanted that franchise back so that they could make the money back for the expense, and more so, by bringing out an entire shelf of hardcover omnibus editions, collecting all the Conan stuff that they'd ever done. Each one of those volumes retailing for over $100, and Marvel knowing perfectly well that every older Marvel fan was going to want all of them. Because the Roy Thomas, John Buscema run on Conan was that good. I even had one of those volumes. I'm no big fan of those big omnibus editions. Marvel had no sooner finished doing those than they lost the franchise again, and it went to Titan Books. And the writer Jim Zub, who's a big Conan fan. And Titan Books, they started coming out with Conan the Barbarian, and some of it was really good. I was leery of it because the previous non-Marvel, the Marvel version, the second Marvel version of Conan the Barbarian was pretty disastrous. Conan was constantly being saved by little women. Not Louisa May Alcott, but tiny female warriors, or tiny... he was constantly needing saving in his own book. Which is an endemic characteristic of the ideological capture of Marvel and DC Comics by blue-haired, side-of-the-head shaved, nose-ringed, ideological, far-left, alt-left zealots who hate comics, hate comic readers, and wanted to just destroy these things. A character like Conan, who is pure testosterone, who beds wenches in every town that he goes into, he was someone they needed his head on the wall. They needed Thor, they needed Jim Kirk, they needed Captain America, Hail Hydra, and they also needed Conan. These creatures, these locusts, don't care about art. They don't care about comics. They don't enjoy anything themselves, but they do like trophies. And Conan was a big one, and they got it for a few years. They got it where Conan was thwarted or rescued in almost every issue of his own comic book. So I wasn't sorry to see Marvel lose the franchise again, not in the slightest. And I was naturally primed to expect more of the same when Titan Books got the franchise. And their Conan the Barbarian pleasantly surprised me at times. Then they came out with the first issue of their Savage Sword of Conan. They delighted everybody by reviving the oversized black and white Savage Sword of Conan idea and format. That was a delight. That showed me, anyway, that Jim Zub, when he talks in interviews about being a diehard Conan fan, that showed me that it was true. Not only a diehard Conan fan, but a diehard fan of the old Marvel issues that I loved. So to have a larger Savage Sword of Conan back on the stands was fantastic. Then I read the first issue and did an hour-long review of it on this channel. And it was a disaster. The first issue was a disaster. Not only was it horribly drawn and horribly produced, but Conan is saved not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times by a 4-foot-tall, snub-nosed, take-charge girl boss who don't need no man. Conan is a bystander in that issue. Everything important is done by this woman, who we're told is an engineer, but she is more tireless than Conan and a better sword fighter than him. Just casually, by the by. I mean, I always have been. Didn't you notice? She slays a monster. She defeats the human bad guy. She slays another monster. She solves the problem at the end of the issue. Conan just watches and grumbles, and she saves his life number of times. And I eviscerated it, of course, because that was, to me, the ultimate demonstration that I was right. That in a rightness that I didn't want to have. That I was right that that Titan Books is every bit as ideologically captured as Marvel and DC, and is incapable of doing Conan that is not a desecration of the character. So I kind of dropped Savage Sword of Conan, and I have not been keeping up with Conan the Barbarian. And every time I've looked in on either Conan the Barbarian or Savage Sword of Conan since my devastation of that first issue, I have regretted the decision not to keep up, because I've been seeing universally good work. Especially a recent issue that was incredible. It was as good as anything that I've ever read in a Conan comic book. It helped quite a bit by the fact that it was written by Roy Thomas. He's got to be getting on in age, but he wrote a fantastic Conan adventure. And also by the fact that it was drawn by Joe De La Torre, an artist that I did not know before my association with Titan Books, but who right now in his career seems to be happily doing a note-for-note, moment-by-moment, pixel-by-pixel homage to John Buscema, the great artist on Conan from the Marvel years. It's uncanny how Joe De La Torre channels John Buscema. Just uncanny. And they came together in that previous issue of Titan Books, Savage Sword of Conan, which was great. So I instructed my surly houseboy that I want all subsequent issues of Titan Books, Savage Sword of Conan. So that's what we're doing today. For Cimmerian September today, we are not actually going to talk about a 40-year-old issue of Savage Sword at all. We're going to talk about the new one. This is Savage Sword of Conan number 10 with a Mike Mignola cover. So those of you who are Conan fans but not comic fans... Oh. Hi, Peanut. What you doing? How you doing up there? Nothing interesting on the street? You're so pretty. You are. Do you want to come down here? Is that why you're... Oh, look at you. You got to heave yourself up. You're an old lady. Oh, goodness. You want to come over here? Can you make it over there? There you go. Okay. All right. Anyway, those of you who are Conan fans but not comic book fans might not recognize the significance of this. That is a Mike Mignola cover. Mike Mignola is the creator of Hellboy. He's a legend. And he must be enjoying this comic because he has his pick of assignments. He doesn't need to do covers for money. So this is great. It's great that they gave him the cover. But you notice something else about this cover. I'm sure you've noticed it already. Conan's not on it. For the first time, I think, ever, Conan the Barbarian is not on the cover of Savage Sword of Conan. And that aligns with the vision for Savage Sword that Jim Zub has espoused from the beginning, which is that this is going to be a magazine devoted to the theme of Cimmerian September this year. All of Robert E. Howard's fictional creations, not just Conan. Which is great. It aligns perfectly with, for instance, Michael K. Vaughan, who has been saying for years on BookTube that the imaginative worlds of Robert E. Howard are all great. It's not just Conan. I wouldn't be surprised if Jim Zub watches Michael K. Vaughan's channel. Not in the slightest. And sure enough, the cover is a good token of what you get in the issue. Because, first of all, I don't understand this. On the beginning, we get the beginning of the Numidian Chronicles that tells about Conan the Thief, the Reaver, and the Slayer. But the image that goes along with it is John Buscema, inked by Ernie Chan. And I don't understand that. I guess it's all friendly between Titan Books and Marvel Comics, but how is that not copyright? Not Conan, but I guess they have the franchise, so they're bringing out hardcover anthologies, so maybe they can use Buscema's artwork even in an issue. Then we have a map of the Hyborian Age. I'm sorry, this is not as muddy. It has been cleaned and brightened from the original printing, but that's still not a good map. It's still overly busy, so that you really don't know what you're looking at, and you need a magnifying glass to read the place names. I still don't like it. I wish that that the map were a little better, maybe more detailed than the map that was at the beginning of every old issue of Savage Sword of Conan. Do I have an example of that? Every issue of Savage Sword of Conan always started with a map. Yeah, this is the old version. There's not a lot of detail there. There's no topographical detail at all. This one has too much topographical detail, and I think it's distracting. But the first story that we get is Twice Paid Debts. Part 1, The Traitor Returns. This is written by Jim Zub. He, I think, writes everything in this issue, and he's really good. He's really good at writing Conan. And the artwork is by Doug Braithwaite, who in his 4-color superhero comic artwork I have always liked. He's not good in this issue. It's largely because of the weird, unfinished nature of his artwork. That looks like a rough sketch. It doesn't look like it's been finished or even inked. And yet it obviously has been inked. And the result of that is that we get a Conan who very often doesn't look like Conan at all. Let me show you an example of what... Yeah, this is Conan. No, I don't think so. I really, really don't think so. It's a story... see, look, this is supposed to be Conan. Crom's blood. That I don't think so. It just is totally wrong, and it doesn't ever really get right in the course of the issue. We have Conan looking like that. All these little hatch marks on his chin, on his cheek. I think they are the kinds of consideration marks that an artist will typically do and an inker will typically correct. and that's why I said I get the impression that there's not a whole lot of care going on here. I mean, that looks like a rough sketch. It reminds me of times when in Marvel Comics past they would show us the rough sketches, the rough breakdowns of a page before it was finished and inked. Only that's what Conan looks like when he's killing someone. He looks as surprised as the guy he's cutting. I didn't enjoy it. The opening story I didn't enjoy at all. And then we get to a second story which is set in prehistoric times. It's a fang and spear story set in prehistoric times, which is Robert E. Howard, so it fits the bill for this idea of Savage Sword of Conan, which is not going to be just Conan. I rejoice in that. That is great. Even though that lays me wide open to Solomon Kane and his hat. I still rejoice in it. Because, like Michael K. Vaughan, I want to celebrate all of Robert E. Howard. He is actually terrific to read in everything. Then we get the pinnacle of the issue, and I think the justification for that Mike Mignola cover. Because we get sailor Steve Costigan, the brother of another Costigan character. This is a contemporary to Robert E. Howard. The character debuted in 1929, very much a 1920s, early 1930s character. He's set then as well. He's set in what Robert E. Howard would have considered contemporary times. And he is a bruiser and a brawler. And Robert E. Howard writes a lot of his stories with a kind of, what's the word? A kind of wink humor. There's a kind of a winking humor in this. These are very broad Paul Bunyan type stories, and they're very enjoyable to read. Very much so. And I don't think I have ever seen one illustrated. And this is illustrated by Joe De La Torre, which is fantastic because the artwork is just amazing. Who does his inking? Does he ink himself? Yeah, more of the prehistoric stuff. Right, got it. Oh, you're telling me the lettering. Who does the inking? Just Joe De La... Rob De La Torre. I've been saying Joe De La Torre all this time. It's Rob De La Torre. I don't see an inker listed. Maybe he inks himself. But it's terrific. He has a dog named Mike, and he encounters these guys stealing the purse of an exotic Oriental woman, and he decides to lay into them. And the dialogue is great. The action is great. When Steve Costigan is getting ready to fight these guys, he says he tried to bring his pig sticker to bear, but my left-hander was better. And then he just the second fedora tried to cut me out, so I cut in. And then we get blip, blim, blam. That's it. That's all we get. Blip, blim, blam. As he routs these guys. And it turns out that they steal the purse, and it has a ring, a mystic ring, a ring of Thoth, a connection with Conan. That Jim Zub does these sorts of things cannily. And Conan enters this dive bar to find out what or not Conan. Costigan enters this dive bar to find out what happened to it. And it turns out it is on the finger of this brute with glasses. And the ringleader decides, well, the way you can have it if you can beat him in a boxing match. So there is a boxing match. But the problem is that the ring makes this guy invincible. As long as it's on his finger, he can't be beaten. It's a miracle that Costigan is able to last any length of time, because this guy can't really be hurt. And you can see the ring is burning his glove off. It's burning its way through the fabric. Costigan isn't giving up. But nevertheless, the seedy club owner thinks, well, it's not hurting you, but it looks bad. So why don't we take this glove off and get you a replacement? And when the glove is off, Mike the dog bites the finger off and runs off with the ring. And there's all sorts of gunplay after that. One of them just barely misses Costigan. Another one does a great visual. Let me see. Oh, it's on the next page? No, I missed it already. Yeah, there we go. Look at that. It goes straight through her hat. And he makes a run for it. All the way to his ship, which is at the dock, with the man chasing him the whole time. And he just barely gets away, and the dog is with him and has the ring, which it just spits into the ocean. That's the end of the story. The story, it was wonderful, of course, was the highlight of the issue. And it reminded me of something that I've often thought when I think back on other Robert E. Howard creations, even Solomon Kane. A point I've made about Solomon Kane. The thing that I think Robert E. Howard would have written if he'd lived longer is that there is a thing that connects all of these characters. And it is a very Conan-esque attitude towards diving right into violence if the cause is right. Even if the cause is, to please a pretty woman or to increase your own booty. There's a kinship. And one of the things I like about Solomon Kane, there aren't many. There aren't many things that I like about Solomon Kane. I'm trying to, because he's the subject of Randy Ray's Lone Star Book Club this month. One of the things I like about Solomon Kane are the rare moments when circumstances push him to reveal that underneath the veneer of a man of God and a Puritan warrior, there is just a barbarian. That's the neat thing here that I think Robert E. Howard would probably have emphasized more in later literature if he'd written it, is that there is an inner barbarian in the heart of all of these people. And I think Jim Zub sees that. I think he's actually going for that in linking all of these things. So that is your Cimmerian September for today. It's a Savage Sword of Conan, but it's not Marvel. It's Titan books, and it's terrific. What is this? This is $7. Well worth it. Well worth it. I wasn't all that much in love with the Conan story. I think that Doug Braithwaite can do a lot better work with his artwork. I don't know what experiments he was doing here. Maybe it will yield fruit down the line, but we're definitely in an experimental stage here. And I don't... no offense to Robert E. Howard or to Michael K. Vaughan, which is pretty much the same thing. If you criticize Robert E. Howard on this little corner booktube, you're criticizing Michael K. Vaughan. So, no offense to Robert E. Howard, but no offense to Edgar Rice Burroughs either. Nobody can make those bland prehistoric times stories interesting. No one can do that. No one can do that. No one can do that. DC Comics tried its hardest to win me over to the prehistoric tales camp by briefly having a comic book in which the prehistoric character is a gorgeous teenage boy. Still didn't work. It just doesn't work. You can't make it interesting. Saber-toothed tiger, right? Got it. but the Steve Costigan story was terrific, absolutely terrific. So I am now collecting Titan Books' Savage Sword of Conan. Bet you didn't see that coming. If you watched that review of the first issue, I certainly didn't see it coming. But I now, in addition to, I'm going to say his name wrong, aren't I? I want to say Joe De La Torre, but it's Rob De La Torre, isn't it? Well, De La Torre. In addition to his artwork, which I would now follow anywhere, although he's perfect here. If he could do a monthly Conan the Barbarian for the next 10 years, it would be one of the most legendary runs on any comic book ever. In addition to that, though, I am now on board with Jim Zub. I think he's a true believer. What I wouldn't give if Michael K. Vaughan would interview him on his channel. What I wouldn't give for that to happen. If need be, what I wouldn't give to moderate that discussion myself on this channel. I think they are probably the world's two foremost Robert E. Howard fans. But I'm now on board. I like what Jim Zub is doing, so I am now collecting Savage Sword of Conan. And the back cover of this touts the next issue and tells me that my decision to collect Savage Sword of Conan and to be on board with Jim Zub's vision of Robert E. Howard's world is about to be put to the test next month, because it's going to be about Bran McMorn, who doesn't have a dorky hat, but still. Anyway, I wouldn't have thought I would have liked a Steve Costigan comic book, so maybe I will. I'll report back. Cimmerian September will be over, but I'll report back anyway. So there you go. That is your Cimmerian September for today. Strongly recommend, if you are a Conan fan, go out and get an issue. Go out and buy an issue of this. You're really going to like it. But I'll wrap this up for now, and I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.